Hello and welcome to Judica County. I'm your host, Damian McCullers. I am here with Taylor Scruggs. We are both attorneys with the law firm of McCullers, Whitaker, and Hamer, your law firm for life. Today, we want to discuss a topic that we get a lot of calls about, which is divorce. It's unfortunate sometimes that parties must split and go their separate ways, but it is indeed something that we handle here at the firm. With that, again, welcome, Taylor.
Thanks for having me.
So tell us a little bit about absolute divorce and how it works.
So absolute divorce, or more commonly as other people outside of the legal field refer to it as simple divorce, is essentially you going to the court and saying, I've been separated for a year, we haven't reconciled, and we want to formally be divorced. Like as court record, we're divorced. There's kind of a few things you have to have in order to do that. You have to have been separated for a year. So sometimes we get calls where people have been separated for like 6 months. It's not long enough. You have to be separated for the entire year, and then we can't file until the day after that year passes, because the court isn't going to take a filing that happens on the 365th day. It's got to be one more day, and then that we can file.
Right. So just to be clear, you have to be separated for 1 year in North Carolina.
You have to be separated for 1 year, and it has to be a continuous year. Like we mentioned in our separation video, it can't be broken up between 3 months and then, we were back together and then we split up again. It has to be one continuous year. Gotcha.
Tell me about some other pitfalls that you see just in your daily practice as far as divorces go.
One thing we generally see an issue with when it comes to absolute divorce is service. And service is how you send the documents to the other party. So God forbid, but let's say you were getting divorced. We would have to send the documents to your wife, and we have to do that by certified mail or sheriff. Now, the problem comes in is whether or not you as the client had the right address. If you don't have the right address, you have no clue where they live, that could cause some issues because not everybody does forwarding, which means there's no way the Postal Service could forward it to their new address. Or what if they've moved and never told anybody where they were going? If we can't find them to serve them, then that creates a more difficult process, because now we have to try to show that we put in every effort to find them and then put it in a newspaper for like a certain amount of time, which is extensive, to show that we tried to contact them. So service can be pretty problematic.
Service is essentially giving the other side notice that there's a divorce that's going to happen?
Right. Service is giving them the complaint and the summons, and they have 30 days to answer the complaint. So we can't move forward in the process if they never got served. The court is always going to check to see how service was done. So another thing we've recently seen with COVID is that mail carriers aren't always having individuals sign the green card for certified mail. So one thing we've started to do at the firm to make that easier on the clients is just send an acceptance of service, which is the person getting it saying, I did receive these documents on this day, and it's notarized, and the court will take that. But we don't know for sure how they're doing on certified mail with these COVID standards. Gotcha. So service could be pretty complicated, and that's where we see the biggest pitfalls. Because if you thought they lived in Wake County, turns out they live in Johnston, we have to go through Johnston Sheriff in order to serve them.
Tell me about how separation agreements work as it relates to a divorce. So if I am separated and have been separated and I have a separation agreement, how does that work when my 1 year is up and I want to finally get divorced? How does that work?
So the separation agreement on its own is still valid. It's still a contract between the parties. So the divorce itself isn't going to invalidate that. But what some people decide to do is to have that separation agreement incorporated into their divorce judgment. So generally, if somebody breaks that separation agreement, your only cause of action, the only way to fix it is to file a breach of contract claim. If you get it incorporated into the divorce decree, it's now a court order. So now you have contempt options for them not following through with a court order. Okay. So some people don't want to go that route because they don't want to make the full agreement public record, because it would be. And then sometimes people are like, no, this includes child custody. I want it to be in a divorce decree.
Gotcha. And with that, I know a lot of times separation agreements will deal with kind of household finances and money and all of those things. If you don't have a separation agreement and you're getting divorced, does the divorce itself deal with money?
The divorce itself will not deal with money. So absolute divorce is just you formally getting divorced in the court records, and it goes to vital records to show that you are divorced in all the court documents. But they do not handle issues of money. Issues of money are generally a separate case, or they were handled in a separation agreement.
Okay. And one last thing, I know many moons ago when I dealt with family law, this would sometimes become an issue with the lady of the relationship resuming her maiden name. Tell us how that works and what happens.
So in order to resume your married name, we need to know that on the front end because we have to put that in the complaint. If it's not in the complaint, which is the first thing we file, then we can't add it in later. Because the court charges an extra $10 of filing fee if you're going to resume your marital name. That doesn't mean you can't resume your marital name after you get the divorce decree. You can always take that and go to the Social Security or whoever and work to get your name changed that way. But if you want it done through the court decree, it has to be in the complaint, which means you need to let your attorney know on the front end that that is your plan, because that raises the filing fees. And again, it has to be in the complaint in order to be in the divorce decree.
Gotcha. So big points and big takeaways from this is kind of make sure you have your 1 year separation. Mm-hmm. Make sure you have a good address for the person that you want to serve. And if you want to resume your maiden name, make sure you tell your attorney ahead of time.
Right. And adding on to the addresses, one of you has to live in North Carolina for 6 months. So if you've both been out of state for like the last 5 months, that could cause a problem. So somebody has to be in North Carolina. Otherwise, North Carolina doesn't have jurisdiction. So that's another reason why addresses are so important.
Perfect. Well, we thank you for joining us. Again, if you have any questions or you feel like you are in need of services for divorce, please give us a call, 919-772-7000. Thank you.